I now call on the public orator to present the honorary graduand, Mr. Michael Potter, for admission to his degree.
Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. One might imagine that a career military officer as head of a further education college would mean that all students and the staff were well-behaved and high-performing. Whatever their behavior, Michael Potter has definitely produced high-performing results. And there is evidence across Mike's life that indicates that excellence would be the inevitable outcome of much of what he would do. Mike was born in Newcastle-under-Lyme to Derek and Iris Potter and was raised in Trentham in Staffordshire. He was schooled in and around Stoke-on-Trent, where he attended Sandon Road in Mere Heath and Trentham schools, and then studied science A-levels at Hanley High Grammar, now Mitchell High, and Stoke-on-Trent Sixth Form College. Though he was raised a Staffordshire lad, his connection with Chester began with day-long cycle trips to the city as a boy. It seems a long way for a day out on a bicycle, but Mike's athleticism as a high-level tennis player probably meant that the 40-mile journey was an enjoyable and easy jaunt. Despite being told that he would not or could not succeed at university, Mike took his entrance exams for Oxford and was awarded a place at St. Peter's College. Not only that, he had also been offered a place at Imperial College London. Mike took that criticism on board at a very young age and turned it into the determination to achieve what is probably the best accomplishment he is most proud of. Of course, it did come with some sacrifices. Mike's father, a teacher by then, was focused on education, particularly that of his son. Concerned that football was getting in the way of passing the 11+, Mike's father imposed a study before football rule on Saturday mornings. Clearly, Mike, as a teenager, was well-behaved and high-performing, perfect for both Oxford, where he studied physics, and the military. Mike's 31-year career in the military was almost by accident, and I emphasize almost. A classmate of Mike's at St. Peter's, Oxford, was then sub-lieutenant, said to him, "Why don't you join the Royal Navy with me?" So he did. That friend was none other than Admiral Sir Mark Stanhope, who was recently First Sea Lord. But enlisting in the military was not entirely accidental for Mike. His father had been a wartime navigator in the Royal Air Force and later a CCF officer. As a child, Mike was taken to air shows, which inspired him to want to follow in his father's footsteps. But it was also his father who took Mike to Oxford, which enticed Mike to aim to walk among the grandeur of the spires. Mike got both. During his time in the Royal Navy, Mike laid the foundations for his future in further education by becoming a trainer quite early on, educating young men and women in a variety of naval training establishments. What was supposed to be a 3 to 5 year stint in the Royal Navy became a 31-year distinguished career focused mostly on teaching and training, but also included engineering, personnel and strategic planning in the Directorate of Navy Plans and Programs, and finally Deputy Chief Executive and Director of Operations of the Naval Recruiting and Training Agency. To have such a long and successful career in the military, Mike was certainly well-behaved and high-performing. A bit like his entry into the Royal Navy, Mike's transition into further education was fairly accidental. His career of policymaking, teaching, and overseeing the training of sailors and engineers gained him the honor of Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, or CBE. He was then tipped for Rear Admiral the next time there was an opening. In that period, Mike delivered a speech on training and education in the armed forces. A member of the audience asked Mike if he was interested in heading up an FE college. Mike was not interested in heading up an FE college, but he applied to one anyway, and he was appointed principal of Wirral Metropolitan College, not very far from here. Mike sacrificed his opportunity to become a Rear Admiral in order to apply his skills, talent, and passion for education to an FE college. Mike transformed Wirral Met into a successful institution which became the fastest-growing provider of apprenticeships, one of the best-performing FE colleges in the Liverpool City region, and a key part of reducing the number of youths who were not in education, training, or employment, or NEETs. Clearly, Mike instilled a culture of being well-behaved and high-performing. Mike Potter is now principal of the Guildford College Group in Surrey. It is a very different set of challenges than either the Royal Navy or Wirral Met offered him, but it is a new set of challenges that no doubt continue to inspire and encourage him. Though his career choices may appear to have been accidental, Mike's well-behaved and high-performing nature has led to his own success and also that of many others. Underneath it all is a lifetime of service to others. This commitment is summed up in his own words. It is very much about giving people opportunities they haven't had. And though Mike has made what seems to be a very unrelated transition, Mike brings to education what he learned from the military. You get far more out of life working with people than by setting yourself up independently. Vice Chancellor, in the name of the Senate and of the Council, I present to you for the admission to the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, Michael Potter.
By virtue of the authority invested in me, I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Science, honoris causa, in this university. Congratulations. It gives me great pleasure to invite Dr. Michael Potter to address the congregation.
Vice-Chancellor, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that introduction, from which I hope it's clear that I have a passion for science and engineering, and it's about that passion and what lies behind it that I'm going to talk today. I'm certainly of the belief that things do not happen by chance, and whilst undoubtedly in life there's an element of luck and being in the right place at the right time, most things, I would say, happen by planning, focus, and above all, a reluctance to accept the status quo. And that, I think, is what education is about. Whilst my own experience in terms of graduation is much like yours, it's very different from that of my parents, from whom I took inspiration. And it's that which I look to use now in my role as principal and chief exec of a large college group. Many of my charges do not sit in the traditional category of school or college to university, but instead have consciously come back to education later in life, and for them, confidence can be an issue. Students like this, however, do have many traits from which we can all learn. They have an inbuilt aversion to accepting that good enough is good enough. And it's through that inner strength that they frequently go on to achieve great results at university and beyond, and often surpass their own expectations. In short, they're inspired to succeed. So why is that? I'm a physicist. Why I became a physicist, I'm not sure. But I suspect much of it was down to the early inspiration from teachers that I had when at school. My first teacher began teaching physics in 1930. That is, 2 years before the neutron was discovered. Imagine the changes in his lifetime. Look at the state of progress of atomic and nuclear physics over the brief period of time from 1932 until 1945, when phenomenal advances were made. Why did those subjects progress so quickly? Inevitably, there were huge pressures as the threat of war approached. But in my view, it was an insatiable quest for knowledge and a refusal to accept the status quo that really led those early pioneers to continue. And so it is with all academic disciplines. More recently, we see a similar situation with the search for the Higgs boson and the frustrations that that entailed. The time and energy spent on getting to one result, only to have to start again on a new or different component of the puzzle with the Large Hadron Collider. I was inspired when I was young by that physics teacher, but we need constant sources of inspiration. In my case, it was first provided by my father, as you heard, who introduced me to the idea of Oxford at a very young age, which gave me purpose and determination. Later, it was my tutor there, a Merton scholar and the top physicist in his year, an academic heavyweight, with no interest in mundane things. But what he had was focus, charisma, and determination. It was that which led him to do some of the original groundbreaking work with Ramsay in the United States on molecular beams. So how is this relevant to you and me? Degree-level activity, whatever the discipline, if it is to be valuable in later life, is very much about applying theory to practice. In my time as a submarine engineer officer, that is what I learned most. Often the true scientist and engineer only comes into his or her own when everything else has been tried and failed. And that is really what being a graduate is all about. Frequently the need to fall back to first principles and to think outside the box. For a seagoing engineer in a hostile environment, perhaps this is obvious, but the principles are the same in whatever walk of life we're in, service or civilian, public, private, or not-for-profit sector. And equally true in humanities and life sciences, as I know only too well from my time at Wirral Met through our close association with this university, which has always recognised and valued a range of entry and progression routes across the disciplines that it runs. However, today still too many policies and academic debates are around higher education in England and are too narrow and focus exclusively on progression to prescribed higher education through full-time residential degrees. And perhaps now is the time to think about other options for the two-thirds who do not progress in this direction. We currently face an unprecedented post-war productivity challenge, at least 17% below where we should be had we continued at the same rate as before the recession. And we continue to face acute skills shortages in engineering, manufacturing technologies, science and ICT, to name but a few. Colleges supply a third of higher education students, and recent research from the Department of Business, Innovation and Skill indicates that 30% came from the most deprived neighbourhoods in the country. Whilst this news is much more positive than it was, with labour market challenges over the next 20 years and the requirement to upskill our workforces and develop new and emerging successful sectors, such as creative industries and pharmaceuticals, it's clear that the present technical and professional education is still underdeveloped and in need of overhaul. The good news is that attention is turning to address these problems, but the solutions require validation and award processes that work and have credibility with major stakeholders, such as students, employers, and the professional institutions. And you all have a part to play in this. I would urge you all, as you leave university to move to the next stage of your respective careers, to think upon this. What is it that you aspire to? How will you get there, and by what route? And finally, think back to your own time here at Chester. What has gone well for you, and what have you learned from that experience that will help those who follow you and to whom you may now be that inspiration? We can learn a lot from the past, as many military commanders and politicians have done, but we'll learn an awful lot more from the future, so it's important that we're prepared for it. As students, what you've accomplished so far has been a commendable achievement, and you've undoubtedly been inspired to do this. But you now all have the potential and ability to go on and deliver so much more. In so doing, inspiring those who are set to follow you. Never be put off, never accept second best, and never give up would be my 3 maxims for life. For only then will you get the recognition that you truly deserve. In short, have a passion for what you do. Congratulations on your success today, and to all those who have taught, helped and supported you on this journey. And well done, and good luck for the future. Vice-Chancellor, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, to be recognised by the University of Chester's award of an Honorary Doctorate of Science degree for my contribution to the university and its students, and more broadly for my work in education, is an accolade that I will long cherish and respect as a scientist and as an engineer. And I thank you for this prestigious award today. Thank you.